Matt McCallum.
Is now joining the conference.
Yeah, this is Josh. What was your name, sir?
Josh, it's Matt McCallum.
Oh, hey, Matt. What's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing all right. So it looks like Steve got caught up in another meeting. So we were going to go ahead and review some of the things we were interested in. He may join at a later time.
Sure, that's no problem. I'm waiting on Momta to come in too.
Oh, Momta, how's Momta doing?
She's good. She's good. Actually, she was at the WISPA show with Anand. So
yeah, it's been. I met her at the conference, the Netsapien conference a couple years back. I didn't make it to the WISPA event.
You didn't miss a whole lot. I mean,
no.
it's just Vegas. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that venue. Don't get me wrong. It's not really a gambler, so it's not a huge.
No, not really.
San Diego's a lot more friendly.
I know. They're just releasing the user group meeting. They just set the date for this coming year. I think it's it's the first week, last day or two of February, first week of March.
Yeah.
So that should come out. It'll be cool. I think they're doing. I don't know where they did it last year. I haven't been here that long. I've been here about 6 months. So I don't know.
When I was there, the talk was that they were going to keep it in that same what was that hotel right there on the bay?
The Kona Kai. That's where.
Catamaran. At the Catamaran.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. This one's at the Kona Kai, so I don't know if the Catamaran could. But the Kona Kai is on a peninsula. It's still kind of surrounded by water. I think.
It's generally all close to water. I mean.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's like on the. So it's in the bay. It's kind of in the bay as well. But it's on a little peninsula that kind of sticks out there in the middle of the bay. So as they come into the bay around Coronado to get all the way through or under the bridge.
So it's still in the same general area, basically.
Yeah, I think so. It's in that Point Loma area.
The boardwalk and all that was awesome. I hadn't been back to California since I was a kid.
Oh yeah, are you from there?
No, I have a lot of my family's military, and I spent some time at Camp Pendleton.
Gotcha. No, I understand. I'm from that area, so I had cousins that were at Pendleton, and I remember a Marine wedding when I sort of remember when I was 14. It was just yeah, I spent a lot of time. I used to surf right on the other side of the 5 and we used to sneak on to which is probably really stupid, but we used to sneak on back when they had the private cottages on the water down on the beach. There was a really good break there, so we used to kind of sneak over real early in the morning and then try and skedaddle out of there before anybody found us.
No.
Not the smartest thing.
Yeah, I could see how that could.
That could be a
bad.
problem.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ping Momta and see where she is.
Huh.
I know she had to drop off the kids this morning. Nope, I see her. She's coming. Telling you, man, the days of when you could just not be. So, did we get you the link to actually go to the go-to meeting on the demo
this
side?
was all arranged by Steve. I didn't see that.
I'm going to send you it right now. Because we actually pulled it up, so there's a few things we can show you.
Is now joining the conference.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. Hey, how are you?
All right.
Okay.
Right now, I'm gonna pull up. I don't think Josh got the.
Yeah, I think it was just Steve.
So I'm going to get it to him right now.
Right. Let me also log in and get
We don't need the audio at this
no.
point. Josh, I'm going to send it to you via email.
Uh-huh.
I'm not working fast this morning. I can feel it. You ever one of those days you just laugh at yourself because you're just not doing
All
it
the time.
All the
Oh,
time.
good Lord.
Are you kidding me?
I'm like, I just did something. You know when you copy and paste and then you copy and paste something else, you forget the second copy and paste, and you're like, oh, copy and paste. Oh, what the heck is that? There you go. Should be on your email now. That was terrible.
I have this great clipboard utility that I use, which is awesome because it goes back like 15 copies ago, so you can
No.
find stuff. It's great.
That's cool. I need that.
I'll send you the link for it afterwards.
That would be
it's great.
awesome.
And I know you're a Windows user like me, so we'll be
Yeah, we might be the only two.
I know, it's a dying breed around here.
I keep holding out.
They're like, wait, Microsoft? Windows? Although not that I'm by any stretch of the imagination a Microsoft fan. I used LibreOffice for years and then I ended up going back to Microsoft. Like, oh no. All right. Actually, you know what? This might be better if we just do it. Not preferable on Corp.
Is now joining the conference.
Is that Steve?
Yep. Sorry, guys. I had another call.
Hey, Steve.
Way over. Hey, Matt.
How are you?
Real good, thanks.
Hi.
That's okay. You haven't missed much. We're challenged logistically, so we're getting everything together. We're just about done here, though.
AV issues.
Just me.
Yeah.
Just me.
All right. Okay. So let's see. What's going here? Oh, come on. Close that there. Oh, I can show my screen now. Okay. All right. You should see the screen. All right. Let's see if I can get this. I see web phone. What should not be enabled for me? No, there it is. Okay. Well, actually, before we go into, let's just say block for now. Did we want to hit that list first, Matt? You tell me where we want to start first, because we can do this piece a little, later.
Basically, what I wanted to do is just see what Steve and Josh wanted to talk about. Obviously, we have that list. We talked about a few things. I wasn't there for the entire conversation with Anna,
Right.
so I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. And guys, I brought Mom to on because there's obviously a lot that she knows, and we can try to work through some things and see a few things that we can show you now. There's some other things that we can do as far as getting you access to some Snap Mobile stuff and things like that. But tell us what you want to do, if you want to just go down that list or what,
I mean, I kind of jotted some of my own thoughts against each category that Steve proposed.
Okay.
So if we just want to start with one broad topic at a time, I can ask whatever I need to ask as we progress.
That's fine. Let me just open the door right here. Okay. Do you want to start at the top? The first one was Sandbox.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as far as the Sandbox, basically what I had was what can I anticipate that it's including in a Sandbox version of Netsapien? Are we just talking the core, the NMS, a portal? What comes with something to that effect. And what are the physical hardware requirements to deploy?
So that you don't necessarily have to have a physical server for a sandbox per se, because we typically license it for about 10 sessions or so, just from a testing perspective. If you let me see here,
we could use a VM to host it on?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And if you go into our help center, which I'm probably not logged into right now, so I'm going to do that. There's an article in there on Sandbox, what you need. Obviously, since it's nothing, oops, it might help if I spelled it correctly. Virtual sandbox recommendations. So it's pretty. There's not a whole lot to it. So
that's pretty bare bones.
Yeah, I mean certainly you can go more. What we would do with with a sandbox, you can. Let me think about this here for a second. You guys already. I didn't open up my boss. Let me do that. What modules do you currently have? I'm getting there in a second myself, so pardon me asking you that. Okay, so next link, where'd you go? I just saw you. There you are. Okay, so you guys have Core, QoS. You do have one recording server.
I don't know. I'm trying to get back into NMS. So. Okay,
absolutely would have Core. It would definitely have portals. We typically will bundle it with the endpoints module on there as well. So it would be, I don't know if you probably didn't, but it would be similar to when we do an eval instance. The recording is the one I would have to verify because I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about the recording portion.
No,
this is more, I have a young staff that we're trying to train, and I need a place where they can explore without risking our production server. That's the big goal here.
Right. Now, you are currently in just an HA configuration, or are you? It's HA. Okay. So in the event that you do add geo redundancy at some point in the future, then you can also have a geo sandbox configuration as well, so that you can fully mirror in a sandbox testing environment what you have in a production environment. So at such point in time that you have a geo-redundant production environment, you can absolutely have a geo-sandbox environment as well. So let me go back to my questions here. So licensing, as I mentioned, that would be 10 sessions. You're going to have, it's typically unlimited endpoints. If you do have Snap Mobile, which I know this is part of what we were going to be talking about too, then we can't do a trial and a production license of that to my knowledge. As far as timing, once you have the instance set up, which would be, so you'd bring up your VM, and then if you go to, come on, it's, I think it's, yeah, so you would, it would be what you did initially. So basically you just want to have Ubuntu 14.04, whatever, the latest version of that particular LTS version is, installed on that server, and then you would need to create a user on there that has sudo privileges for Netsapien, and then you'd give us that we'd need those credentials, IP addresses. We confirm that we have access, and then we could go ahead and basically install on there all the modules. Best to open a ticket first and just say that you want to do this. I want to say that I believe there's just the install fee for the sandbox. Can't remember.
Do you have a broad figure what that is?
I'm trying to. Well, generally, whenever we bring up a server, it's a $500 install just for the server, but there's no MRC on the sandbox moving forward. So I think it's just a flat install fee at the time, just for the installation of it. But after that, that's it's free of monthly recurring charges because it is a testing environment for you.
All right.
So since Matt's on the phone right now and he knows that that's something that you're looking to do, because typically sometimes our customers will open a ticket saying I want a sandbox, and then it'll come to sales as to okay, well, you need to make sure we get all the paperwork and payment and all that done. So I would go ahead and put in the ticket and in Zendesk and just say that you've spoken with Matt and that he's aware and that you'll be working out the invoicing details, but you just wanted to kind of put that ticket in there because that can, maybe, and just say that, once payment's done, this is kind of what our timeline is, just so that you can maybe try, we can get you onto the calendar for install.
That's no problem.
Okay. All right. Anything else with regards to
that? Pretty much covers the what I had on that one.
Okay. Alpha program. So we have a separate server that is alpha.netsapiens.com, which has pre-released code, some of the features. It is, as the name suggests, alpha code. So it is as such going to be. It's going to have bugs in it. It's going to have issues in it, but that's sort of part of what we want. What you get out of it is being able to see what we're looking at in terms of, upcoming features and improvements and so forth. And also you can help us by identifying any issues or bugs that you do come across through looking at it and sort of using it. So for right now, we have a forum for that, which is alphaforum.netsapiens.com. And you can, it's going to make me, I'm already logged in, but let's see if I log out. It'll basically prompt you to ask to sign up. So once you sign up in there for that, we get notification that you want to join. It was actually the same tool that we use for our other forum.
Okay. Which I think I'm still waiting for approval on my login for that, if I remember correctly.
Are you really? Okay. Well, that one we can maybe.
Yeah, which I was I had a user created for the boss and one for the help forum or for the help knowledge base, but not for that.
So let me see. When do you know when that was? That recently or a while ago?
I want to say a couple weeks. I want to say, but don't quote me on that 100%.
The other piece about that is, too, it's a two-step process. So once you, let me see here. No, that's a different Josh. Okay. Do that for me again. I'll watch for it, and I can go ahead and approve you as soon as I see you have signed up. You'll get another email back, and this will be the same for the Alpha Forum as well. You'll get another email back basically asking you to activate the account. So we're approving it. You have to activate it, and then you'll gain access to the forums.
Yeah, because that was somebody responded to. I came across a bug for creating time frames, and they're like, "Oh, this fixes, at this forum post." All right. Well, I'll join this forum.
Okay, so something must have, I don't know what happened there. So it could have been, I don't know what happened there. You will need to make sure that you do use your work email address, which just so that helps us to be able to identify, and it does also prompt you to plug in what organization you're with when you go to sign up. With the Alpha Forum, once you do that, we're trying to, I think, hopefully combine the two together. But for the time being, they're two different forums, so apologies there. Once you get access to that, then it'll give you the information on how to go ahead and create an account. Essentially, you will be given a reseller account on the Alpha server, which will then allow you portal access, and you'll be able to see some of the new features and functions. Okay, beta program. So this is a newer one that you now is one of you guys on the forum? Because that one, or you must have seen the email that came out with regards to that, probably, right? Earlier in the week,
as far as how I gain knowledge about the, there being a forum, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Or?
No, the beta program. So you mentioned on that.
Oh, so the beta program. I was aware of the alpha program from the conference, the Netsapien conference. This is the first I've heard of.
Probably.
Oh, okay, because I saw it. Okay.
It's probably conversations with Anand over the show with Steve.
Yeah,
okay.
and I actually talked to Anand about that on the mobility piece, but then again, it's going to be GA here pretty soon. But again, we probably, in the future, any of those things go from alpha to beta, again, we'd like to be
right.
at the forefront.
Right. So I do see that that's going to be something that we're going to do more of. The one thing that's going to, for the time being, knock you out of being able to be in the beta program is that you don't have a sandbox yet. So the requirement for the beta program moving forward, is to have a functional sandbox that you're willing for us to basically put that beta code onto. That you can then help us with testing and, again, getting sort of a more getting a view of the code that's closer to GA than the alpha that you're seeing on alpha, on the alpha server. So it's just kind of, further along in the iteration of the code, so to speak. And so you need a sandbox, and then we'll be so with this next version that's coming out, which is we're kind of changing our naming from the 12.27s to versions. So the next one that's coming out is what we're calling V36. And so that is what the current version of the new beta program is going to address. But the next time when V37 comes out, there'll be an opportunity, to participate, as we get closer to, and as we have beta code basically prior to GA of our code releases. So definitely, again, once we get you all hooked up in the forum and everything, I'll be watching for
I just submitted
for information there. One other thing, though, did either of you get an email on Monday regarding the beta program that would have come through our kind of mailing list? Because I want to make sure that you guys are receiving those emails.
Malta, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that they were up until I had contact with Josh and Steve. Josh isn't new, but he's not on. He was in there, but I don't know. His email wasn't in there, and then Steve wasn't in there
basically,
at all,
basically the way this worked out is there was two of us. Russell Irwin was
Right.
I guess controlling the direction of the product, at least from a broad standpoint. So like getting the emails and sending things to him, it basically run like that, and then he'd come to me to make it work.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, and this is part of something that in my, I guess, new hat that I'm going to be wearing, is kind of getting a handle on, so what I'm doing right now is sort of kind of gathering all the information that we've got for our different customers, and then I'm going to be, reaching out to you guys again with a sort of more of a global perspective of how are things going, how can we help you, along the lines of what we're doing today, but potentially even a little bit more kind of broader in scope. But I also want to make sure that we, as part of that exercise, that the people and contacts that we have for our different customers, we have the most current ones, the up-to-date ones, and that we have a function that they are, in what capacity, are they, for lack of a better word, related to us? Is it from
is now joining
a
the
management
conference
perspective? Is it an accounting? Is it a technical? Because then when we do send these various different communications that have a particular focus in mind, we want to make sure we're getting it to the right people. You know, if we sent, you know, there's a new beta program of the code and it goes to accounting, well, that's nice and they're really happy to know that, but that may not really, you know, doesn't affect them very much. And, you know, we're all busy and we might mean to forward an email on to the person that we think that might apply to, but sometimes, you know, life and stuff happens, you know. So I will make sure that we, on whatever those, you know, distribution lists are right now, that both of you are there.
Speaking of that, is there anything else, you know, because, you know, we are in a transitionary phase as far as we taking over the department. Is there anything else that you can think of that I should be aware of as far as that's concerned? You know, forums, you know, distribution lists, you know, anything else that I need to spend
I
some
would
time
say
looking
the
at?
forums is the big one, because the thing is, let's just say you didn't receive that email, which we want to get rectified anyway. The point that what we're trying to do is to push, you know, everybody to one place to get more expanded information on in some cases within the forum, because we want to build that as your go-to place to go to, both for announcements and information, as well as for you to be able to feel like you've got a place to ask questions of other customers that are in similar situations to yourself. So the two places that we're really trying to make, you know, your, you know, main places to go to for information are the forum and then the knowledge base. The knowledge base from a technical, you know, perspective, this is how you do this, or, you know, these are the ways that you can do, you know, that you configure something. The forum being, as I said, the announcements, the known issues, the feature request submissions, and then also, okay, I get that I got this from the knowledge base, but I want to make this work for this customer who has this need and this phone and this network. Has anybody else done this before? And then you can, you know, ask those types of questions. So it's more the practicalities of how to actually put into practice those things that you might find in the documentation. So certainly I will make sure that you get onto distribution lists. But beyond email, forum, and then Zendesk, I don't think you're really that you're actually missing anything else. And also too, that's going to be part of, you know, my job in conjunction with Matt, of course. You know, to keep, you know, sort of checking in with you if there's news. Hey, you know, we're going to be releasing, you know, a what am I trying to say here? And Snap Mobile Android is going to be general, you know, is going to be GA now. It was not up until now. That's coming. Hey, did you know this? You know, just wanted to let you know. So those are some of the things, you know, that might be outside of those three things that I was talking about, but those would be where you're getting more direct one-on-one from either Matt or myself. But I think with those three, making sure that you're in part of all of those, then I think you're pretty much covered as far as being able to be aware of absolutely everything that's going on from our perspective that you as a customer should be aware of. Okay. All right. E911, and you said open. So was it and I went to go look, and I think I didn't. Is it an open ticket? Oh, here it is. E911 install.
Right. So I was just under the understanding that this was just a broad, you know, topic for discussion. Did you say there's a ticket from us on the 911?
No. I'm just looking. I'm just looking at that particular. So the email that had all these different points on it. It says E911-open. So I'm not sure what that meant.
Yeah, and I put that there, and it is just kind of a broad. It's one of the things that keeps me up at night, right? And I think we had an instance the other day, Josh, where somebody did dial 911 and wound up in Canada. Peace out.
Yeah.
So just anything to harden that. Do you have in your partner ecosystem anybody that does? I couldn't think of the name while I was out in Vegas, but Red Sky is one that when I was with Avaya we partnered with and had a real good, you know, bolt-on E911 mapping, alerting, disaster type call notifications, a lot of different things around E911, but at the base level, and Josh, I haven't even asked you the questions, when we go set up a commercial business, and especially now school districts that have multiple campuses, obviously multiple classrooms and facilities, somebody dials 911 from the cafeteria, I want to make sure that they show up at the elementary school and not the high school and those kinds of things. So, again, just one of those things that keeps me up at night and making sure that we're caring for it right on the platform. If not, get some assistance from guidance from you guys and da-da-da-da-da. That's kind of my thoughts there.
Yeah, so just so to give you guys a heads up, the way that I would typically handle, a multi-structural deployment like that for the 911 portion is that, I typically split it up and make it departmentally based, and that's how I separate which 911 caller ID I'm going to use. So they will have different based on the general, the physical location of the phone itself. Hey, is this in the admin building? Is this wherever?
Sure.
Wherever. And then you take, you group those people together that have that, that same 911 CID, and then you merge it with the bandwidth piece where it validates against the address. So when it sends out, goes out to the area, it gives them that address that's tied to the that particular caller ID.
And
that
again,
being said, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Josh.
That being said, there was, I, reviewed we had some legislation here in Texas, referred to as the carry law, where in the initial, it did pass, a much watered down version, but in the initial version, it was going to state that, hey, like just a scenario of a hotel, that you would have to send out the room number, the location, a lot more than your typical 911. And while that was stripped out this time, that doesn't mean in the future that some other legislation isn't pending or won't supersede that. So we were kind of wanted to investigate on what our potential options were in the event that happens.
Okay.
And is what I'm doing now valid? Is that the best way to approach it?
Yes. So, making that 911 caller ID, something that is closest to, what that user is, where that user is located is obviously the best way to do it for now. One of the things that has come up from our customers, obviously, is that there are users, and users can have multiple devices. Now, I have a device at work, I have a device at home. If my user is my work user, and I made the call 911 from my phone that is sitting at home, I don't want 911 at my work address, I want it at home. Right now, as it stands, we can't accommodate that because the 911 caller ID is at the user level. I believe, I can verify. I'll double check this, but I'm looking at the feature request. We're changing caller ID to be from the user to the device, and it's slated for this next V36 code release that I was referencing earlier. So that then now caller ID for 911 will be moved to the device level. So probably what it will do is by default, when you create devices, it will inherit the 911 of the user. I'm not exactly sure of what the specs of the feature are off the top of my head, but with the ability to be able to change it at the user level, at the device level. Sorry. So in that instance, then you will have better granularity as to where does that 911, which 911 number and location, does that phone actually belong to, so that, as you mentioned, if the call was made from the cafeteria, that's where 911 shows up, not at the admin building.
Right.
So that is coming. Right now we are bound, as I said, by 911 being at the at the global user level. Which, if you've got different phones that, if it's literally a user has only one phone, then you're okay. It's really the issue becomes where you've got a user has multiple phones that sit at different physical locations.
Yeah, and as we progress, with our time in the platform, and as we reach out to a larger customer base, I can really see that becoming an issue. At the current time, we have a few where they may have a different device, but in the big scheme of things, we don't have a large group of users that have multiple devices, where one's at home, one's here, so on and so forth.
Exactly. So that is something that has come up from our existing customers as an issue, and it is something that we are going to be adding as an enhancement, improvement, if you will, to the way that 911 caller ID functions within the system. It's not in the system just yet, but it is going to be added.
And at a minimum right now, Josh, and I can't remember if I asked this or you answered it, but, much like you have me set up call appearance for Darlene and all the rest, again, if somebody dials 911, if they enter those digits, can we get a bridged appearance to every console operator,
has left the conference,
owner of the business, whatever it may be, but again, that it's broadcast on their caller ID on their phones, or in some way messaging them, SMS, email, something that, hey, again, somebody from the cafeteria called 911, so everybody be alert.
Yeah, and that's, we don't currently have that. Okay, go ahead.
Right, so I don't know if you can see my screen. I'm not sure which screen. Let me check and see which one I'm on. But there is there's an article in the knowledge base. Yeah, you are on the screen. So I'm just making sure. I always get mixed up when I have my two screens. There is a documentation on how to set up notifications for emergency calls that have been placed, and you can get either or phone and or email notifications that somebody placed a 911 call.
Okay.
And the instructions are in there. So if you look for how can I enable notifications for emergency calls, or just even put an emergency call notification within the knowledge base, then then there's an article on setting that up.
Okay. So Josh, again, just a to-do on our side is something that if we have not done that, we want to proactively start with school districts and do it, and then just slowly migrate out to the other businesses that we have.
Can this dial translation be placed globally, or will this have to be domain-based?
Well, the thing is that it depends. It can be. The answer is yes and no. So in this particular way that this particular example is written, it's written where it's going to, a specific user, 5223 or something, which, is a very specific user. What you could do, now this would require sort of, again, going to like a convention that you would set up, is create a specific user solely for the purpose of E911 notification across all of your customers. So then you could have that particular user tie into, either have a SIM ring to, to the appropriate.
Okay, so you're talking about having a convention where you just automatically know that whatever the customer wants as far as a user base, you automatically additionally create one, and that user will, SIM ring somebody, whoever else, be tied into every other user.
Exactly. So in this case, we've got 5223, but let's say you decided to create a user called, 9911 or something, let's say, and that was going to be something you were going to place in all of your customer domains. Then you could move that dial translation that's here stated to be at the domain level up to a shared dial translation, which most likely would be probably the Cloud PBX features dial translation, and then have it be more of a global rule. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want, if you kind of try to, do that and you kind of are like, well, I'm not really sure, then absolutely go ahead and open a ticket and we can, work with you on kind of.
Yeah, this kind of rolls into the concept of the sandbox, so I could set this up in-house and test it before I rolled it out on our server.
Exactly. So this is written from the perspective of putting in at the individual domain dial translation level, but certainly you could you could do it higher up as well.
All right.
And make it more global, so then it's kind of a one-time set it and forget it, but you need to obviously make sure that whatever that user that you're saying is going to be the user that's going to be notified is a user that exists across the board, or at least in those domains where this is a key feature that you want to make sure is functional, like your school districts. Anything else on 911? I think with the addition of that feature of making sure that the 911 caller ID comes from the the device, as well as enabling this notification, then that should put you in a much better spot from a, from the perspective of making sure the right, 911 is being, sent to the right place, plus also from any kind of legal perspective, putting you in a good place.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Toll fraud protection. We actually, there's a lot of things you can do with regards to toll fraud protection, really. We could probably, there isn't even enough time on for us today to kind of really go into all of that.
One of the specific areas that I wanted to focus on in relation to that is in relation to alerting specified staff that a potential fraudulent situation is occurring. In the sense, I've kind of played around with the graphs and such, on the BOSS piece, and it seems like it could be, potentially used for that. Like, you could run your graphs and say, okay, statistically, I'm averaging about this many calls, I don't know, every day or whatever, and then, buffer that by an X percentage, and if it exceeds that percentage and alerts you, then, it's cause for concern at least. It might not be a clear indication, but it's a lot better than having nothing.
Well, actually, I just realized as I was like, well, I'm about to tell you stuff, which as I mentioned, we did a 3-day training in-house a few weeks ago, and we did an entire day on just security. So there's a ton of different things that start from the very basics of just passwords. Who has access to your system, the user passwords, and we went into like device, passwords.
Yeah, the password that's definitely
kind of
occurring. Even on our polycoms, I have a small written XML that I send with it that changes it across the board. That's basically inserted at a domain level override.
Right. So what I would say is absolutely in BOSS you can set up alarms. It actually allows for warnings and alarms. Neither of them is going to stop them happening. It's just an alarming thing. However, I just realized that you guys have the QoS module. That has a ton of anti-fraud stuff in there. You can find out if somebody in a different country registered a device that belongs to one of your customers. So if all of a sudden one of your devices suddenly pops up as having registered in Egypt, you'd be like, wait a minute, what happened here? So there's a whole actual section of the VoIP monitor settings that has to do with just anti-fraud stuff.
I did see. I also looked at that a little bit, and
so there's some
it actually has a tag, so you can create things, using a fraud-based tag, basically.
Right, but it also will alarm you. The other thing that you can do, again, moving back to the system, is that what I would suggest, and where did your server just go? I was just looking at it. It's right here. Is, let's see, how are your connections set up? So how are you sending, say, international traffic? Is it going through the same, is it going through Vitality, or do you have a different
I believe it
carrier?
is, let's see, limited. Let's see, it should be limited. International goes through level 3, I believe. International, it goes through you pre-send it with 011, obviously, and then it goes out a level 3 trunk.
Right. Okay. So, and this is only for international that you're using them?
Using level 3, or?
Yeah, so let me
the vast majority, as far as it's now, I mean, it's a big project to implement some form of least call routing, but as it stands now, like all of our traffic goes out of the level 3 trunk, basically.
Okay. So what I would suggest that you do, actually, what you can do is in here, in your connections, you can create a new connection called international. The IP address associated with it will still be 107.178.7.227. But basically, you're able to alias that connection, because consider this is only traffic that's going out. So we don't really care if we don't need that any kind of origination match because there's no traffic coming in. So we can call it whatever we like. It's just for sending traffic. What that then allows you to do is to then set up specific dial permissions on that connection because it's to be used for international only. You can set a limit of how many calls can go on that connection because you can decide, okay, this is how many international calls is normal for us. This is as many as we want to allow. So certainly, yes, BOSS, and then also VoIP Monitor can alert you, but this will literally stop the traffic when it hits a certain number. So if your international traffic is going through this quote-unquote international connection, then your traffic is halted when it reaches whatever number you set up.
Yeah, one of the other, kind of similar, obviously not through the NMS, but it's a similar concept that when I was thinking about this occurred to me was that it kind of the same. This is a little more detailed, but obviously locking down the concurrent call limits within specified domains, so that the customer pays or agrees to whatever a certain specified concurrent call. It never, you buffer it a little bit, but it never exceeds a certain amount, and it'll lock it down. So you have a multi-layered approach. You got your security, your password, your alert, your monitoring, and a physical stoppage of the amount of calls that can be simulated.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we ended up, covering here. So when we, if you talk about call limits, well, this is dial permissions, but call limits is kind of the same thing. You set limits at the domain level, you set them at the user level, and you set them at the connection level. Now, the connection level becomes tricky when you start talking about domestic calls because this is where, and the most fraudulent activity, where the cost gets racked up, unfortunately, are not calls where somebody dials 011. They're the Caribbean. They're all those, NANPA numbers that look like U.S. numbers. So again, just as I'm suggesting with international traffic creating an alias connection, you could even create another connection called, let's say, the Caribbean, and make sure that you'd have to specify them because they don't come in a contiguous format in call routing. You can actually take, you can take the different call routes that you've got for the different, all the different area codes that make up these, and I think there's about 25 of them or something like that, and basically route them all to use your Caribbean connection. And again, then you can lock down that connection to only allowing X number of calls. You can't lock down your normal domestic one to say, oh, well, I'm only going to allow 25 calls. Well, that's ridiculous because all your customers are using it, and 25 calls is nowhere near what your license, limit is. So the more you kind of tease out all these other things, even if you're using the same carrier to send all those calls to, you can then really pull out all those ones that are the ones you want to really limit. And for that Caribbean connection, you can tie it to your U.S. and Canada dial permission. So absolutely no calls that are related to the Caribbean, to that could go through, or you could put it to allow, but then the call routing is only sending those Caribbean calls to that connection, and then you just limit it to the number of ones that you want to allow. Or if you want to just not allow anybody to call those locations at all, period, then you set it at that connection. There's a number of different ways you can come at it. It just depends on what your dialing trends and needs are for your customers with regards to international and high-cost areas. The other thing is that you set up dial permissions for international in maybe 3 buckets. You do low cost, medium cost, high cost. If and it's sort of like your cable TV. You have the 200, 300, and 400 plan. Well, I want that channel. Oh, well, you got to bump up to that next level. I want that location. I got to bump up to the next international, plan or something. You can certainly even tie in, fraud protection with even just your service offerings. Just a matter of how you want to come at it.
All right.
Okay.
Did
and there are
PDF?
There are.
Was there be a reason why I couldn't get a copy of that, or?
Oh yes, actually, when I'm in the process, I can get you something before. Yeah, I can get you this section of it for sure. I'm trying slowly to kind of move it into the knowledge base. We do have some of it in the knowledge base, but it's not in as much detail as I went into, and I think that it's obviously something that is very important and critical to all of our customers. But sure, I can certainly get you that information.
Okay.
Okay. And then I lost my email. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. So then, as far as mobility and UC goes, you can get a 5-device trial license for Snap Mobile. So if you would like to trial that on your existing core server, we can set up a trial license, and then in the event that you decide to go with a full production license, then we just transition that trial license into a production license. And what you need to do for that is just, and we can actually even do it right now while we're on the phone here, is you go to System Settings, Advanced OAuth Clients, and we basically need to set up new API credentials. So we'll just add in a new one called Snap Mobile, and here's the client ID and the client secret. So the one thing that we need to know from you is when you, and let me show you what I'm referring to. I think it's in our documentation.
Hey, Mom,
yes.
Sorry, just a quick question. Depending on what they want to look at, because there's mobile and then there's UC, but UC isn't released yet. Would it be preferable to you guys to wait until UC is released to look at all of it? Are you interested in the UC side, or is it just the mobility that you're looking at?
Preferably at the mobility, but absolutely, I want to see what's upcoming.
Yeah.
So some
I don't know.
Go ahead.
We don't have that capability to do that at this point on the UC side, right?
So in 12.27 portal version, which I'm not sure what you guys are running, and I can find out in a sec. You are okay. So in the version of the portal that you have right now, but they have to have the UC license. With the UC license, and then maybe this is where the alpha server will be helpful to you because you can kind of see some of it in there. There is also a web phone component, which is what will be released in this V36 that I was referencing. Mm-hmm. So this is an actual full phone. So it's not a soft phone, it's a web phone. So this is something that would run on your desktop, that when you log into the portal and you click in the contacts doc, and now I'm going to try and find where I put it. Yeah, so if I go to my contacts doc and I click on the phone icon, ordinarily right now it pops up a little dial pad, and essentially you're doing a click-to-call if you were to put that in, to your portal right now. But with web phone enabled, then you can basically, it will pop up a box that, if you've ever looked at Snap Mobile, or if you just, if you do a trial, looks very similar in layout and design to the way that our mobile application looks. And it, brings in all of the favorites that you've got within the portal, allows you to add more to it, gives you, enable your microphone, I don't know where to do that. Is that here? Work. I don't know if I even have a microphone on this computer. Hello. So so now I have a dial pad. I can dial from here. It'll go to my contacts, and so it's ringing, and hopefully my cell phone starts ringing here soon. It says it's calling me.
Matt or Josh, can you send me the link to the webinar?
Yeah,
link?
Yeah, I got you.
I didn't know you didn't have it. I thought that you were.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we've been going on this whole time. I've been watching the whole time.
Yep, no problem.
Sorry.
Okay, let me I'll wait for you to do that, and then I can do this again.
How's everybody on time? I'm probably going to have to break off here in about 15 minutes, but I know we've gone well over. Are you guys okay? Okay.
I'm good.
And while I'm waiting on that link, one other thing I didn't put on the list, but I believe we have the licenses for call accounting too, so just before we wrap up, if I'm not here,
yeah, I noticed
cover that with
too.
Josh.
So what are you, or what were your plans for using the NAS?
And I don't know that we need the full-blown call accounting to do this. One, I definitely want to link to BillMax, and for setting limits and things like that, in our plan, I want the ability for BillMax to alert us or alert the customer when, hey, if you're on a $20 a line, 2,000-minute plan, that they're getting notified prior to that, hitting the limit, and those kinds of things. I don't know if we need the full call accounting to do that, or if that's just a simple link into at the domain level or whatever for these customers.
Right. So one is, yeah, because we're talking about real time. Yeah. So let me, let me see if I can see if there's anything set up in there right now.
Steve, did you get that link?
Yeah, I'm logging in now.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
Got it. So again, didn't mean to derail there, but again,
oh,
just another.
No, not at all. Okay, so let me get back there again. So right here, and then I think, yeah. Okay. So so going back to this again. Okay. All right. So when you are in your portal right now and you pull up the contacts dock, it should look pretty much mostly like this. You won't see this little camera icon. This is the web phone. I'm not sorry, the web phone. Sorry, the video portion. Again, that is part of the UC license, as well as the web phone. So when you normally right now click on this icon to make a call, you get a little dialer that opens up, and it's basically a click to call that you're initiating. With V36 and having a UC license and having web phone enabled, when you click that icon, it pops up this pop-out screen right here, which is the web phone. And so this isn't a soft phone. This is kind of a phone of its own. I mean, I didn't have to go in and register it or do anything. The system automatically did that. And so now this is a device of its own. So if I now go to the dial pad in here and I start dialing, it will look through my contacts, and my cell phone is in there, so I can dial here, and so probably can't hear it, but my computer's giving me like ring back and tells me it's calling, and then here's my cell phone ringing, and I just made a call, and I can kind of hear it. So I'm making the call straight from my computer. So I didn't have to register a soft phone or anything. It's a phone that's on the web, much like the mobile. The way that this is designed in terms of layout is intended to mirror the way that the Snap mobile application looks as well. So from here, I see my answering rules, If I wanted to reprioritize them, I can do that. I can do that on the Snap mobile application as well. This one, as with the Snap mobile application, I have different greetings. If I wanted to add a new greeting, I click here, and of course in this case I'm going to be recording through my microphone that's hooked up to my computer, but again with Snap Mobile you get exactly the same screen interface. I can name the greeting, and I can click to record a greeting straight from the Snap Mobile application as well. And then I can, choose which one I want to use. So if I now want to use this one instead of that one, I can. And again, same deal with the mobile application. And then when this is released, there will be UI configuration parameters around, how to change the background and colors and things like that, so that again it can sort of, match with, some of your branding and so forth. I can listen to voicemail, or I can look at my call history. Again, same thing with Snap Mobile. I can filter based on missed calls versus inbound, outbound. What else? And add new contacts in here as well, which will automatically push to my contacts that I have available and viewable, so to speak, from within the portal. So it goes back and forth, and I can also, favorite somebody or unfavorite them as well. So a lot of what you see here is very similar to what you see if you were using the Snap Mobile application. And I can filter the contacts by those folks that are online, by extension, last name, first name, and those are all very similar to the same type of functionality that you'll see within the mobile application as well as in the portal itself when you start looking at contact doc, contact screen, etc. I did log into your portal. I think this is you guys. I didn't log in. Are you using the attendant console at all?
I've explored it. Somewhat familiar. I recently upgraded the portal, so we haven't been on this a lot, for a long period of time.
Yeah. So some of that it's nice. Do you guys do a lot of call parking?
We do a huge amount of. It's pretty much a standard feature on our deployments, basically.
Okay. So one of the nice things about call parking from within the attendant console is, being able to set it up for dynamic. You can just click straight and make, your form of parking either be dynamic or static. If it's dynamic, that's turned on. When you park the call will automatically be parked at the first available based on how you normally set it up. If you're doing static, then you can drag it and drop it at the appropriate call park that you want to park it at. And the nice thing about the dynamic call parking is that one of the things that we haven't quite figured out from doing it through the phone is that the way that we're parking the call is essentially mid-call DTMF. And so somebody does hear the beep, beep, depending on how many, characters or digits you're using to actually park them. Right. So with this, because it's done through the UI, there's nothing that they hear when the call gets parked. And they can see it on here. The other nice thing about static call parking is that typically the way static call parking was intended was multiple people in one park, first in, first out, which can still be accomplished through if you were going to be retrieving them via the phone. But if you're going to retrieve them via the attendant console, you actually can then be selective about which calls you pick out of that static call park as well, because you visually see who's where. So that maybe opens up your options in terms of how your customers could potentially use that call park. They may not be stuck with that same view of just a first in, first out that the front desk person uses. It might open it up for maybe some different use cases as well. And you can transfer call, when you transfer, it pops up the option to do an attended blind transfer or transfer to voicemail, and you can drag and drop any call to a contact, to an existing queue, or to an auto attendant.
Just, because I am going to, as well run out of time. One thing I did absolutely want to ask that wasn't on the list that Steve produced. So we're pursuing these larger and larger jobs, right? Like the school districts is a prime example. And I'm encountering situations where they have their own professional level IT staff, where they want to be able to monitor, mitigate, control, configure portions of their phone provisioning, let's say. And this particular example is just the one most recent is directory-based. So basically the scenario is, okay, you have a template directory for that same, remember I was telling you behind departmentally baseline 911. Well, the directory is along the same concept. So the directory for all these phones within the admin building, let's say within that department, are the same. Well, somebody turns over, leaves. They get somebody new. That IT staff wants to be able to modify that said group. And while I did come up with what seems like a Band-Aid fix to me, it is very, very bulky and cumbersome, and it's a lot of effort. You go in there and you click your favorites, and then you remove them and stuff, and it's really time-consuming to do it that way when you should just be able to en masse make that one change and en masse send it to those those phones within that department or group, however you decide. So and it's not just a request; it's a demand. And the easiest fix for this would be to have permission levels at the NDP. Hey, you can have access to your domain and modify on the NDP that directory, or something similar, because they can just make that one change on that one directory, resync the phones.
Right.
Whereas if I have to send them to the portal, it's a lot of effort.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Is it that they're putting in brand new users, or is it that the user who was associated
it's both.
with that extension
It could be both. Okay. They expand, they contract, or it's just a name change. It's both.
Okay. I know that there's been a large demand on a number of different aspects of directories and the ability to have things just sync if somebody makes a change, because right now it does require a reboot of the device for it to pull a new directory. So there is some more, there's definitely work that's going to be done in that, but it's not anything that I know of that has a direct timeline associated with it at this point in time. There is a way to give somebody domain level access to the NDP, but I don't know if that actually gives them directory access. I would think it probably does not. So let's see. So we want domain access to directory.
This particular example, I just want to specify that this particular example is directory-based, but this is a broad concept. The majority of these type of staffs, they have their own hosted VoIP experience. They don't want to be or should have to be reliant on, myself to make a directory change or, reroute one little piece.
I totally agree with you, and that has definitely come up, from a lot of our customers, and so there definitely is, work that we know needs to be done, and are to some level, we are planning on it. What the full scope of that is, I'd have to check with product management and engineering.
This is something I wanted to put out there because we're
but you're not alone, I guess is what I would say.
And I just wanted to put that thought out there because we want to go after the big fish, and to do that, we've got to have slightly different capabilities than what we currently have.
I totally I could totally see that. I haven't looked to see if there's anything even in the API that allows you to do stuff like that. Be interesting. I've made a note of that, and let me check and see if there's something that could be done that's maybe better workaround for the, that in the meantime, that may be less work or a different way of approaching it. And I can certainly get back to you on that one.
Okay. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up what I had. I mean, I'd love to spend all day. I could spend all day looking at this, but
I know.
It's a lot different when you transition from engineer to the to the manager.
I totally understand that. Matt, I took over the whole call, so I don't know.
You are totally no. That was the intent. That was the intent. You know way more than I do. That's fine. I just want to make sure that we got everything covered that you guys needed to.
Yeah.
Of course, we can have further conversations, as time permits. Just, let us know what we can do for you. But from this point, I think the sandbox was an action item that we needed to take care of. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we
Correct.
absolutely want to pursue that.
If you open a ticket, if you can open a ticket stating that you want to add a sandbox and that you're going to be, getting that, put together, then that can, on your part, Matt, trigger, at least getting that supplemental quote, ready and sent over. That can be done in conjunction with getting the actual, logistics and instance and all that fired up.
Right.
And then you guys would put Ubuntu 14 on it, create a user for us, make sure that we have access to it.
What was that 14 part? I got like 5 pages of notes here.
Sorry.
What was that last part?
Sorry. It's 14.04. It's the LTS long-term support version. But it's in the knowledge base. If you go and look
that's right. That's
the
same version. That's the same version we use for the.
It's the same version you're running right now. Yeah, we're testing for 16, but we still are not there yet in terms of using that. So if you then get that on the system, create a user, make sure that we have access to it. You're absolutely more than welcome to lock it down from an access perspective. Just make sure that our IP is able to access.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand.
But other than that, so once you've got the credentials and IP and all that, then you can put that into the same ticket that you open. Once all the paperwork stuff and all that's been taken care of, and we get you scheduled and get that up and running. And then that should be it with regards to that. And you can certainly tie that sandbox into your existing recording server as well, I believe. So you wouldn't necessarily have recording on the sandbox, but certainly you could, use your recording if at some point in time that was something that you wanted to test or anything like that. And it will, as I mentioned, come with core, portal, and endpoints on that instance.
All right, hey guys, I really appreciate your time. I really do.
Not at all.
Yeah,
if there's anything else that comes
insight.
up, please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us.
No problem.
More than happy to help.
All right, you guys have a good day.
Very valuable.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Talk to you.